Please welcome back your ISEF host, Barb Baker.
Hello everyone. Good morning, everyone. And welcome to the Women in STEM panel presented by Lyda Philanthropies. This panel provides a platform to celebrate notable women working in STEM fields and serves to encourage young women to pursue STEM research and careers. Each of our panelists are ISEF alumna and AAAS If-Then ambassadors, and we are grateful they've joined us today. Let us get started with this message from our presenting sponsor, Lyda Philanthropies.
The dreams of tomorrow are being accomplished by real-life superheroes today. Women whose achievements in science, technology, engineering, and math are shaping our future. But how many of them do you know? That's why we started the If-Then initiative to create a culture where these industry leaders are household names. Inspiring young women to solve our greatest global challenges. Because if we support a woman in STEM, then she can change the world.
This has been incredibly fun to work with all these amazing people in this room.
If she can see it, she can be it.
We're hoping to make STEM and women synonymous.
Being able to see someone who looks like you and understand how they got to where they are helps you have the courage to chase your own dreams.
Can you remember the last time you came across a statue honoring a woman? A study of 12 major U.S. cities found less than 6 statues of real women on public display in parks and downtown areas. Well, that number is about to skyrocket. Over 120 statues of real female STEM innovators will have their stories shared in this first-of-its-kind exhibit.
We're going to be 3D full body scanning you, and the final product will be a full-sized print of you.
Now is the time.
Now is the time.
Now is the time to celebrate.
Celebrate the accomplishments of real women.
To inspire the next generation to build the future.
Wow.
Now is the time to change the narrative.
If we support a woman in STEM,
then she can change the world.
Wow, I love that. Did you guys love that? Before we begin, I'd like to remind those of you presenting questions to the panel to step to the microphone in the center aisle when called. Some of our panelists you're about to meet will be available in the lobby for a brief selfie session immediately following this program at 12 o'clock p.m. We invite you to stop by and say hello. Now, please welcome our moderator, CEO of LH Capital Incorporated and Lyda Philanthropies, Nicole Small, along with the Women in STEM panel.
Good morning. Oh, come on, y'all can do better than that. Good morning. Thank you. Y'all want to go ahead and sit down? We're going to get started. Well, thank you all so much for joining us this morning. We're so happy to be here. You can tell that at Lyda Philanthropies and the If-Then initiative, we've been having a lot of fun with amazing women like this over the last couple of years. Oh, you've already got audience fans. That's awesome. Well, I am so excited to be here. I'm honored and delighted to be your moderator for this exciting discussion with these amazing, badass women who are in front of you. This discussion between these 4 AAAS If-Then ambassadors and an amazing audience of the young innovators in STEM across the globe is literally the embodiment of the platform that we at Lyda Philanthropies sought to support when we started the If-Then initiative. If-Then was designed to further advance women in STEM by empowering current innovators and inspiring the next generation of pioneers to pursue STEM careers. But I don't need to tell y'all why that's important, do I? But we know that women like you all are tackling the major challenges of our time, and we're so grateful for that. So this is a pretty great group to talk to you guys today, right? Yeah? Okay, thank you. So you guys, everyone is here, right? Because you've shown you've got passion, you've got curiosity, and you are very creative in STEM innovation. And all of you are trying to make a positive impact on the world through your research and inventions. So thank you for all that you're doing. We're so glad that you're here today. You are definitely the next generation of STEM pioneers. And today is going to be a really fun conversation with these amazing women who are already leading the way in their STEM fields. And they have already overcome enough of their own challenges. And we're going to hear about some of those today. So this panel is going to be a great opportunity for you to learn from the experiences and the perspectives of these remarkable women in STEM. We have had some pre-prepared questions, so they're going to answer some of those. So thank you to our audience who are going to ask some questions. They're going to share some of their stories, some of their insights, and they're going to give you all some advice in pursuing a career in STEM. So we hope you enjoy the conversation today. I know that you will be inspired. I've already been inspired backstage already today. So without further ado, let me introduce you to these four amazing women. Anjali is a senior at MIT. She's double majoring in biological engineering and literature. That's pretty cool, huh? Science and literature. She's conducted research in various labs in the college, including with Harry Wong at the Reagan Institute, George Church at Harvard Medical School, and Ron Weiss at MIT's Synthetic Biology Center. She's an MIT Burchard Scholar and has interned at multiple biotech companies. After graduation, congratulations, she'll be working at the Francis Crick Institute in London. So welcome, we're happy to have you. Kavya is a research engineer at Google DeepMind, which is an AI research lab. It's been in the news a little bit lately, a little bit about AI, where she works on engineering and research projects related to language models. She has a patent on a precision medicine platform for glioblastoma. In 2015, she founded Girls Computing League, a nonprofit organization that works to provide an accessible emerging technology education to low-income students and young women across the world. She's a recent graduate of Harvard, where she received an AB in computer science and healthcare innovation, and an SM in computer science in 2022. Welcome, so happy to have you. Dr. Megan Lewis, PhD, serves as the Bayer Crop Science Equipment and Automated Field Sensing Lead. In her role, she oversees the development, validation, global deployment, and logistics optimization of high-impact digital tools and sensors. She's an award-winning scientific leader and an amazing STEM advocate. She holds a PhD in plant breeding and genetics from North Dakota State University, an MS and a BS degree from the University of Minnesota. Megan, we're so glad you're here. And last but definitely not least, Erin is a junior at Stanford studying neuroscience and computer science. She's also a technologist focused on building the future of the brain and mental health. She's the inventor and founder of FacePrint, an AI tool to detect and monitor Parkinson's disease using video technology and facial expression impairments. She's a senior Atlantic Fellow for Equity and Brain Health at the Global Brain Health Institute, and she's also an Innovation Fellow at the Meadows Mental Health Policy Institute, which is from Texas, by the way, where she focuses on developing innovative systems-oriented solutions for the current mental health crisis that span technology, policy, and investment approaches. Her over 40 publications have been featured in leading journals, and she has an academic collaboration with Stanford, Harvard Medical School, and many more. Her work has been recognized by Forbes 30 Under 30, European Patent Office Young Inventor Award, Wired Health Startup of the Year, and 17 Magazine Voice of the Year. So, Erin, we're so glad you're here as well. So, are you guys excited? These are pretty amazing women. I think we're going to hear some awesome things. You ready? Okay. A heads up to this is how this is going to work. We've got a few pre-scheduled questions. So we're going to ask Ayushi, you're going to come up to the microphone first. If you want to start moving towards the microphone, that would be great. We've got a number of questions that we're going to ask our panelists, a few directed at each of you, and then I've got a few for all of you. And then we might have a little lightning round if we have time at the end. So with that, let's go ahead and get started.
Hi, my name is Ayushi Ranjan. I'm from Boca Raton, Florida. And before I ask my question, I just want to say thank you guys for being such huge inspirations. It's honestly amazing to come here and see just women so accomplished, and especially in STEM. So I have a specific question for Erin Smith. So could you talk more about your work with FacePrint and how this technology has the potential to transform healthcare and other fields that rely on facial recognition? And how do you balance the potential benefits of this technology with other concerns around like privacy and consent?
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much for your question. And so FacePrint actually started out as one of my science fair projects. Back in 2017, I was sitting where all of you were sitting. And so FacePrint is an early detection and monitoring tool for Parkinson's disease and then commonly misidentified neurological disorders that uses video technology and facial expression impairments. And so this idea came from interacting with different Parkinson's patients and then realizing we could use advancements in AI and computer vision to turn this into a healthcare tool. And so what happened was after I started presenting these really early small-scale initial findings at different international science fairs and research conferences, I started to get a lot of commercial interest from clinicians, from different stakeholders within the healthcare system, and this really exposed me to the world of startups, companies filing patents, basically trying to figure out how could I turn this idea, turn this invention that started as a science fair project into a real-world, tangible healthcare product that could impact the lives of patients around the world. And so over the course of the subsequent years, I ended up starting a company around the technology, developing and scaling out the idea, and starting, we have 2 different clinical studies going on at Stanford Med School. And so this really was like a crash course of jumping into the world of not only science, but also startups. And then the second part of the question, I really love that you highlight the ethical and the privacy concerns around facial recognition technology and so many other advancements in AI. And so from the very beginning, I've always tried to have a very human-centered approach and tried to really integrate looking at the larger ethical and societal questions. So FacePrint is turning selfies essentially into a healthcare tool. And so from day one, I've really been asking myself, asking other leaders in the space, how do we make sure that we have that we address the large ethical and privacy considerations. And I think this really highlights a larger shift that's occurring right now in science and technology, where these innovations are so deeply connected with both ethics and policy, and I think we're only going to see those fields becoming more and more connected. So I would encourage each of you, as you're working on your science and technology innovations, to also think about the ethical, societal, and policy ramifications.
Thank you, Erin. And I know we have a second question, but just for a second, did you all hear her say she sat in your seats not too many years ago? So raise your hand if you want to sit on this stage one day and tell a similar story about your thing. Come on, more of you got to raise your hand. Big aspirations. Okay, good. Y'all can be next. Okay, next question.
Thank you so much. Okay, and my next question is for Megan Lewis. So I had a question asking about, so as the equipment and automated field sensing lead at Bayer, I was wondering what are the most pressing challenges you're currently working to address in the agriculture industry, and how do you see technology playing a role in solving these challenges?
Amazing question, thank you. Before I dive in though, I just have to say thank you to all of you for your drive and persistence to get to the International Science and Engineering Fair. Give yourself a round of applause. Right? No, that's cool. I'm gonna date myself a little bit, Nicole, right? So I was in your seat over 21 years ago. So time flies.
I didn't know they let 6-year-olds into the competition.
Oh, Nicole, you're very sweet. Thank you. I was developing a natural fungicide. I've always had a passion for agriculture, feeding the growing population. And so there's a lot of different areas. I'm gonna answer your question in twofold. First things first is that we don't have unlimited land. We need to get creative. The thing I get most excited about agriculture and my global innovation team is how do we do more with less? How do we drive those data insights, enhance those computer science? Like, we are hiring so many more data scientists and engineers with zero agriculture background, but they have a passion. They love to eat. Who loves to eat? Food is everywhere on the table, right? And so agriculture is a pivotal infrastructure of our daily lives. And so when I think about what's exciting is how do we combine all of these amazing domains and create an impactful solution? And so you think about data scientists, to sensor technology, drone technology, satellite imagery. My team is diving in, trying to analyze what are we not uncovering today. So I get most excited about all of the additional insight that we can capture that we haven't captured today. Maybe it's below ground, above ground. I always have different elements: above ground, drones, satellites, at ground level, what can you put on the machines going through the agriculture fields, and then below ground at the roots. That's what's exciting to me. So I think that there's going to be a lot of just amazing discoveries. Stay tuned, hopefully from Bayer Crop Science, but stay tuned in that regards. And so technology is ever changing. This is a great question. I lead an amazing team of scientists around the globe. My executive team includes an innovation leader from South Africa. And he is a go-getter. Like, one of you in the audience might be my boss someday, so good luck. It's going to be fun. But he's definitely one that I could totally report to someday. He's just a change maker. And so when I think about technology, it's really about uncovering and inspiring people like that to have the freedom to create and collaborate with all these multiple domains. And so even though technology is changing, my team was concerned because they said, hey, boss, are we going to be out of job? Is a computer going to do my job? And I do tell them this, and I think it's important for everybody in the room that no, technology is going to enable you to discover new skill sets that you haven't discovered yet today. Technology is going to let you dive into some of those hobbies or +1 activities that you weren't able to learn. So my biggest advice is to be yourself. Congratulations again for being here. I'm really giddy. It's like full circle moment for me, Nicole, but just really view technology as a tool and think about the amazing things that you can discover, and most importantly, don't do it in a silo. Look beside you, look behind you, look in front of you, and say thank you, because I can tell you that together, you all are going to make a difference someday.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question. Well, speaking of technology, Megan, thank you for sharing so much of your view of how technology is changing the work that you're doing. Anjali and Kava, will you guys talk a little bit about technology in your fields and the role that it's playing in the world that you guys are operating in? Tell us a little bit more about how it's helping you solve the problems that you all are focused on.
Yeah, definitely. So I am a research engineer at DeepMind, so I work a lot with building infrastructure and solving research problems related to training large language models, which I'm sure how many of you have interacted with a large language model in like the last week? Like, I play with them all the time. And I'm really excited to also come around and see a lot of your projects, because I hear that there's a lot of language model projects going on at ISEF too. So I think this field is really, really fast moving, and it's a very exciting time right now, because the essence of language is how we communicate and how we connect people, how we understand the world, and how we build knowledge that we all share. And I think what's really interesting is that right now the field of AI is really capitalizing on all this built knowledge that we've accumulated since the dawn of time. That's all been digitized in the internet through 40, 50 years of innovation. So it's very much this peak time of accumulating a lot of knowledge. So I think the way that I personally interact with technology started back when I was at ISEF, because I'm a very hands-on learner, and I think that's translated to my current job and the types of things that I really enjoy doing, which is building things, building a prototype, having people interact with it, iterating on research ideas that way. And I think that philosophy really started all the way back at ISEF, and making sure that you're getting feedback from the research community. And I think all of that philosophy that I take now into how I learn about technology and how I interact with technology, how I think about deploying technology, all really started here. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think I use technology in my life much more similarly to Dr. Megan as or compared to Kavya. That's because I'm a biological engineer, and at MIT, the ethos of the BE community is to ask biological questions first. They should be huge and crazy and really impactful and important, and then determine what technologies and what tools we are able to leverage and harness or develop in order to answer those questions. So I'm a synthetic and systems biologist, and what that means is I hope to be able to look at really any biological system, agricultural, sustainability-related, human health-related, of course, and be able to deconstruct it and be able to determine like what components of this biological system I can learn more about or I can modulate using technology. So when I came to MIT, I felt like I had a pretty weak sense of like computer science and math, especially compared to a lot of my peers, and I said, that's okay, like I'll stay in my lane and I'll just do biology. But the pandemic happened, and I started to realize that I had a lot of burning questions that I could no longer answer like on a bench, and instead I could start to teach myself some new tools and new skills to start answering the same kinds of questions, but in different ways. And shifting my mindset around how I can use technology in bite-sized pieces first, but then now become a much more prolific coder and be able to model all kinds of systems has been really empowering, and that's something I really hope to share with all of you is like the way to best use technology for me when it seems really daunting is to think first about like what problem do I really want to try to solve, or what question am I like really, really curious about, and is there a way for me to use computational technology or quantitative thinking to answer that question. Yeah.
Thank you. Next, we have a question from Zoe. If you'd like to come to the mic, we would love to hear from you.
Hello, my name is Zoe Montoya, and I'm from La Junta, Colorado. My question is, well, I'll get to it in a little bit. This is my first time participating in Science Fair ever, so it's really amazing being here, beyond describable. But being introduced to the world of STEM opened my eyes to the sheer amount of research areas that there are. Earlier in your career, what other paths were you considering, and how did you land where you are today?
Thank you, Zoe. Well, we'd love to hear from everybody. This is such a great question. So, Erin, you want to start down there and we can come this way?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think as I reflect back on my life and all the different career paths that I've considered, I think when I was very, very young, the first thing I wanted to be was a writer. And then after that, it was like a National Geographic explorer. After that, it was a librarian, then like an eye doctor. All of these, like every year, I would change what I would want to be. And it was around when I was 15 and 16, when I started really working in the healthcare technology space, that I realized that my overarching interest was human health and human connection. And I realized that in a way, all of my other kind of career paths that I was considering had that connective tissue of wanting to help better my community, better society, and really do so through the lens and through the vantage point of human health. And so that was kind of what led me to that interest. And I think kind of as I look back in hindsight too, as a scientist and as a researcher in the healthcare technology space, I've been able to do a lot of writing. So in a way, I've been able to kind of integrate that into my career. I haven't become a National Geographic explorer, but I've been able to travel around the world and work with amazing researchers from all around the world, especially in my work in the global brain health space. And I guess eye doctor and librarian haven't kind of come full circle yet, but I'm sure at some point in the career they will. So,
thank you.
Very cool. So I grew up in a small town in North Dakota, so I'm going to give North Dakota a shout out over there. So welcome to ISEF. But see, they're over there. They moved on me. Okay, cool, awesome. So that's really cool. I was grateful and honored to grow up in my dad's science lab. I actually completed my first science fair project at age 4 or 5, and some of the people sitting in the audience were there for that first experimentation. And so they saw me, swab a water fountain handle, put it on a petri dish, and see the amazing colors that came from it. And I thought that was my ticket for ISEF, but they weren't accepting 5-year-olds at the time. But anyways, when I think about my path, I'm telling you this story because my parents are still today, my late father and my mother, they're trailblazers and community champions. So I had the opportunity to be exposed to science and music. This is the fun part. I'm a professionally trained opera singer. I do percussion and piano composition performance, and I do plant science. And I know it's a lot. In my undergrad, I tried triple majoring, like I can do it all, but then I kept music as a hobby and focused on my master and PhD in plant breeding and genetics. And so I found a career in plant breeding to blend art and science. And I even had fun with it. I don't know if you're familiar with pollinating or even just doing some of those activities in the greenhouse with barley and some fun crops. But I had students from Puerto Rico with me back in 2013. And, oh, woo, I love Puerto Rico. Yes, yes. And it's a great program, you should probably ask them if it's a great program. But they come with me, and I get to do research and travel across the state of North Dakota. It's fantastic. NDSU, go Bison. But really, we were jamming out to music. They showed me their music. We're having fun. But most importantly, when you think about plant breeding, you get the opportunity to select what you want to see. So I'm in a career now where I get to blend art and science. I do music as a hobby. But it all started from my roots in North Dakota. And for that, I'm grateful.
I think very similarly to the two wonderful ladies sitting next to me, I think my interest in science has always been driven by something that I really truly care about or something that someone around me has displayed a great passion for. And when I was younger, I loved playing with Legos. I loved building things because I could make whatever I wanted out of these smaller building blocks. And I think that's kind of been the theme of what I pursued, but it's been very nonlinear in terms of what specific field or what specific job function that has taken me to. So I wanted to be pre-med for a very long time. I wanted to be a doctor. Then I learned about computer science, and then I got really interested in the intersection, very much like Erin, of using technology to actually impact healthcare. That's actually where I ended up creating my own major in college at the intersection of computer science and healthcare, and also understanding how that actually impacts in the real world, so how you can actually translate innovation in technology and healthcare to actually impact people. And now I feel like I get to work on something really exciting where whatever I work on is actually going to be used by millions and billions of people. And so I think I've always been driven by what I truly care about, and for me, it's always kind of been like impact and having a personal connection with the research that I'm doing and with the people who might be using the technology or using the research that I've developed. And so, yeah, for the longest time, I think that's taken me to human biology and anatomy, and now it's taken me in a completely different direction. And I think the really exciting thing about learning building blocks of STEM is that you can take that and apply it to basically whatever field and job function that you want to. So I think now I'm kind of in a very research-oriented role, but I think in the past and in the future, I've been very excited by entrepreneurship, so translating some of my own personal research into a company and having impact in that own where I not only get to set research agenda and like a technology agenda, but also a cultural agenda and kind of build a company and a group in a way that I kind of envision would be very like sustainable, fair, and equitable. And so that's something that I really care about. So I think, yeah, the nice thing about STEM is that your career path can be very nonlinear, and I think all four of us are kind of great examples of blending multiple interests together and like taking a lot of different paths to get to where we are today. So.
I totally agree with you, Kavya, and I agree with what you guys have said earlier as well. I think inherent in that question, there's this sense that we have to choose and that the choice isn't something we could ever go back from, but I don't think that's the case at all. One of my biggest scientific mentors at MIT tells me all the time, and this might be, a bold statement to make, but you can have it all, you just can't do it all at the same time. And I think that's something really important to remember, that like all of our passions and hobbies can be equally important. It's just that they might have different roles in our life at different times. So for me, like the first thing I ever wanted to do was work for the CIA, because I was a real neighborhood Nancy Drew sleuth, and I really thought that I was a detective and thought that that's what I wanted to do. But that spirit of inquiry, I think, is what has led me to become a scientist and an engineer. I've also been like a huge reader my whole life, and I haven't ever deprioritized that. That's why I chose to major in literature as well at MIT, which is certainly non-traditional, but has enhanced my abilities as a scientist and as a communicator and as somebody who can relate to other people very, very much. So I think that if you have diverse interests, there can always be a way to pursue them simultaneously, or to say, hey, I'm going to do this as my day job, and every evening I'm going to go do something else for a little bit, and find a lot of joy and a lot of value in all of it. Yeah.
Thank you. So we just learned a really interesting thing. You sing opera. Fascinating. Do the three of you have any other interesting hobbies you would like to share with us quickly? Anybody else do anything like that?
We could have an animal sound competition. I'd be all in.
Okay,
100%.
Good to know. No other hidden talents that we need to know about on the stage today. I will not make you get up and sing or dance or do any of those things.
I quilt.
You quilt?
Quilt.
Okay.
It's a very, I guess, engineering hobby. So it can't ever escape the STEM. But I feel like it's sufficiently creative because you get to pick out a lot of different types of fabrics, figure out how you're piecing them together. And there's this feeling of completion at the end of every step, every block that you make, you put it together. And I like that reward of feeling like I've done something. Yeah.
I love that. Well, I think it's really important, right? Engineers also by nature tend to be incredibly creative. And so it's always fun to hear what people's kind of other outlets and hobbies are. So, okay, well, if anybody else wants to admit to any other amazing hobbies, feel free during the session. Okay, Madhushalini, would you like to get up and please come share with us your question?
Hi, thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Madhushalini Balaji, and I'm from Madison, Alabama. My question is, why do you think there is a gender gap in STEM fields while there aren't in others?
And I'm going to start by directing that one to Megan.
That's totally fine. Happy to take it. And others, please jump in, because I'm sure you have amazing ideas and exposure and experiences as well. So when I think about the STEM gap, that's a great question. I mentor over 45 individuals around the world, scientists, professors, et cetera, on a yearly basis. And I rotate that out because this is something that's really near and dear to my heart. I have 2 young daughters, and so I won't call them out and embarrass them today. But really, they're interested in science and engineering, and I don't want them to lose that spark. I want them to continue that spark of discovering the unknown and really just diving in and just go getting it. One thing that I uncovered just with a bunch of mentorships and different nonprofits that I work with on board of directors, et cetera, is that I'm seeing a pattern. And the pattern is in a different age range than what I was surprised. So this is just recent results that I got just from my little tiny study in 4 states. But really around 6th to 7th grade, when kiddos, I say kiddos, or students are entering that, that's where I've seen students get discouraged. And so, and part of my mission, and my husband and I co-founded a STEM camp, is how do we not allow that to happen, and how do we encourage that excitement and inspire them just to go get it? And so when I think about it is, part of the initiative that we have on the stage today, the if-then, if they can see it, then they can be it, it is so, so important to offer that to everyone, right? Because we're going to need everyone in this audience to help us solve the challenges that we're going to become accustomed to, but also we're going to need everyone's help to be creative and innovative. So the biggest thing is the best thing that we can start doing is continue mentoring, visiting schools. I'm really passionate in this area, visiting science fairs, doing the different competitions, and just reminding students at that specific age that it is possible, that it is tangible, it is touchable. I work with educators around the world as well, and any chance that I get that we can show them who a scientist is, that we're not this figure that's, whoa, they're famous, they're just way up in the air, but no, we're a human being. We put our pants on the same way that you all put your pants on. And so I think it's really important that we start bringing that to life and giving those exposure and experiences. And for that, I'm grateful with Nicole and the If Then exhibit, just to start that mission of if they can see it, they can be it. And so I do see a STEM gap, but I do think it's just around, honestly, just people getting discouraged, maybe a little imposter syndrome slipping in there a little bit, but I do see it as not a watch out, but as an opportunity. And so I do encourage everybody in the audience to keep inspiring. There's a lot of young kiddos, too, especially today, that are looking up to you. They want to be engineers as well, and just to go get it.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to add on to that? Have any other thoughts on this gender gap? Obviously, you all are amazing If Then ambassadors, and I was going to ask you all a little bit about that in a minute, but anybody want to add on to Megan's comments about that?
I just thought I'd quickly add, I feel like it also comes, I feel like I was very blessed to have a very supportive community, kind of like what you said, a community that encouraged like getting my hands dirty and playing with things that ended up building those sort of like engineering mindset and technology skills that ended up becoming the foundation for interests in like inquisitive thinking and curiosity and tinkering and failing at a young age and then getting back up and trying something again. And for me, that actually came from sports, and then also from playing with my younger brother and like building things with him. And so I feel like that's also like a component that I feel like now is starting to become a lot more encouraged in communities through like STEM camps and through opportunities for younger students to be involved with these types of like innate skills that end up turning into STEM skills in the future. So I'm excited for the next generation to have grown up with all those things and to grow up with the internet and be able to like build these types of things from a young age.
Well, we appreciate that. Well, speaking of young next minds, Holy Mary, we would love to have you come up and join us, and please ask your question.
Hello guys, I'm Holy Mary Zaher from Smithsonian, Long Island, New York. First of all, I wanted to thank each and every one of you for this panel. I think everything you're saying is very important for my generation to hear. And so my question is, do you think that there's a generational difference between how older women who hold STEM positions perceive the obstacles to pursuing a STEM career and the generation of girls that are graduating today?
Yes, certainly. I think that what I have seen is that a lot of trailblazing women who are, a few decades older than me have a really gritty attitude and this mindset about having like as thick of a skin as possible, deflecting any negative, commentary, and even enabling and excusing behavior from critics or from like oppressive forces, and just saying, I'm going to keep my head down and barrel through. And I am really proud of women of my generation who I think are much more willing to say, no, I do want to speak up, I do want to push back, and I do want to bring attention to the fact that being brought down either subliminally or even explicitly, none of that is okay. I do think that a lot of women of our age are more willing to take a stand, and I really appreciate that because I think that's the best way to make a significant big picture change. But I also have so much respect and admiration for women who felt that the only way for them to be able to make a difference or progress in their fields was to just work within the system and the confines that they had.
Erin, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I think adding on to that, I think I have been so inspired throughout my whole life to really have the opportunity to stand on the shoulder of giants and to be able to go forward and forge my own path, and to be able to have that freedom and that ability and those choices really due to the women that have come before me. And I think ever since I've been young, being able to read biographies or read autobiographies of these amazing women has really opened my eyes up to the possibilities. And I think something that I've really benefited from, both professionally and personally, has been the opportunity to work with girls and women of all different ages. Just last week, I was at one of my friends and mentors' 96th birthday party, and her and her friend group were all talking about AI and like their ethical concerns and the way that they've seen technology really shape and change the world and their own lives. And then later that day, I was with some family friends who have like a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and seeing the way that those girls view the world and view their role in the world and view the different possibilities of technology and science, I think is incredibly inspiring. And so I think that this generation has this unique tenacity and has this unique resiliency and has these unique opportunities that the generations of women have really made possible before them. And I think that if we can take even more of an intergenerational lens as well, that's going to help women of all different ages and really help create progress and change in the world.
Thank you. Thank you. So at the If Then initiative, you saw a little bit about it in the opening video. That is really, we're all about if you can see it, you can be it, and about these opportunities for role models. And Erin, you're talking about the kinds of women who have inspired you. I'd be curious if any of the other three of you have particular role models or women who did come before you that really have impacted your career path or inspired you to pursue what you're doing or given you the belief that you too can go out and change the world. Do any of you all also have stories like that of people who've really inspired you along the way? Because right now you're inspiring all of them, so it's always fun to know who, like Erin said, has come before you.
My freshman year computer science teacher was, I think, freshman year of high school, was, I think, one of the greatest inspirations and reasons that I ended up in computer science, because she had worked at so many incredible companies before and brought all that expertise into the teaching that she did in computer science and making sure that it was relevant and interesting and applicable to the real world. And so I feel like the closest role models for me, the people that I got to interact with the most, have had the most amount of impact on me. And I look back and I think it was always normal for me to have like a mentor, a female mentor in computer science, because that was my first experience learning computer science. And then I kind of went later in my career and for a long period of time didn't get to work with or for another woman. But I had that kind of seminal experience of having had an incredible role model, and I think that was really important for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. From a more personal side, I would have to say my mom and my grandma. And I'm saying this because I do like hundreds of interviews a year. And for the first time, I did a successful farming interview, and that's when it just hit me. I don't know. I just got in pilot mode, like, who's your role model? And yes, I have worked with amazing female scientists that have inspired me to go get it. But why I say my mom is that she's a music teacher. She's not even a scientist, but she supported our science adventure. Growing up in my dad's science lab, we legit were in that lab 7 days a week, breakfast, lunch, dinner, et cetera, just growing and really seeing the kids do their science research at the next level. But why my mom? Because as I advanced through my career in industry to get to global level leadership, is that I recognized some skill sets that you do not teach at school. And my mom, being a music teacher, she treats everybody the same with respect. It doesn't matter if you're a superintendent or the janitor. She even leaves candy for the janitor on her desk every day. And so now instilling that is like, make every interaction count, number one. Number two, my grandma, active listening. All this time, she always said, no, Megan, sit down for a cup of coffee and kuchen, it's the state South Dakota dessert. But really take time to listen with intent instead of listening, instead of replying. So yes, I have amazing scientists that are mentors, and I love to describe all the amazing discoveries we had in the lab, in the field, across the world, when I lived in Europe, et cetera. But today, I'm gonna go home and say my mom, because you have the opportunity today to make every single interaction count. Connect with those judges, connect with the sponsors, connect with anybody that you see, because you just never know who you're going to meet. So when you go in the elevator, have your elevator pitch ready to go, your 30-second, who you are, what you do, what you want to do, what your impact's going to be, because that could be your next ticket to your next opportunity on this amazing journey. So that's what I would say.
Thank you, Megan.
I couldn't agree more that although it might be a cliche answer, it's definitely the most authentic answer for me, that my mother has been my greatest inspiration for my whole life. She isn't really in science either, but she's taught me two really important things, which is one, to always follow what makes you curious and what makes you wake up in the morning, and to try to do something about that. And two, it doesn't really matter like what you are doing or how you are trying to do it, but making sure that whatever problems intrigue you are those that can also positively impact humanity, and those that will impact not just others like in a really broad sense, but also, as Dr. Megan said, those in your own community, those in your own life. Is really important. Other than that, though, a lot of my biggest female role models in my field, in science and in engineering, are those who are not only trying to solve human health-related problems or trying to make really big biological discoveries, but those that care a lot about translating and communicating that science, those that care about being philanthropists, and those that really push forward advocacy. So one who comes to mind is Dr. Diane Haverl at UCSF, who helped a lot with the HIV and AIDS crisis in the 90s, not just on the scientific front, but also on the advocacy front. And there are so many women scientists just like that. There are so many within the if-then community whom I have become so inspired by because of their real intersectional impact. Yeah.
Thank you. So we have about 10 minutes left. We have 2 more student questions, and then we have a few little lightning round questions. Siona, would you like to join us? I know you've got a question for Megan, I think.
Hi, I'm Siona Promoda from Guaynabo, Puerto Rico, and I want to thank all of you for being here and inspiring us today. My question is whether you've ever felt like an imposter or experienced imposter syndrome.
You know, that's an amazing question, and I don't think that we call that out enough, Nicole, right? I know I'm one example, and I could challenge everybody on the stage that they felt it at some moment in their life. So my journey hasn't been all rainbow, glitter, sprinkles, gumdrops, etc. It's been bumpy. It has detours, things that have been unimaginable. And I'm not here to say that I'm going to pave the path for my children, but I'm going to do everything that I can so that we have an opportunity for them just to follow their passion and their dreams. And so when I think about imposter, oh boy, do I have a long list. I've been in industry for a while. But one that stands out is after I finished my PhD, I was Dr. Megan. I was going to take on the world. I got my company vehicle. I was going to interact with amazing global scientists. And I just was in a different headspace. And I leveled that headspace out immediately, which I'm going to get to that point in the story. But when I got done with my PhD, one thing that I recognized right away is that my leader at the time told me, degrees just get you in the door. It's what you do, your drive, your perseverance, how you treat people, how you interact. By the way, if you're in science, take psychology, all the psychology that you can take if you want to be a people leader and global leader someday, because you will thank me later. But definitely, just that is that moment with imposters. I was so nervous after my PhD, like, whoa, what am I doing? I got into my company vehicle and I paused. I paused because, like, do I have what it takes to be a scientist? Am I going to be able to walk the walk, talk the talk? And I really fell into a funk. But I loved that my supervisor at the time said, degrees get you in the door, but it's what you do and how you interact and how you treat people what's going to inspire and drive your rest of your career. And so I try to do that with my mentees. It's like, hey, it's amazing. You have the education background and the infrastructure, but it's what you do with it. It's how are you going to make an impact? How are you going to interact with those? And that's what keeps me driving. And that's what I do. As far as work, yes, imposter syndrome. I'm a female leader in the agriculture industry, and I do have aspirations for CTO, CEO soon in a big corporation. And with that, there's going to be challenges, but I don't view them as roadblocks. I view them as opportunities. So I lean on my support network. One biggest thing to help with imposter syndrome, I'm going to give advice. You didn't all know that you signed up for Dr. Megan's session today. But really, with imposter syndrome, it's finding your champion and not your cheerleader. There's so many moments in my career over the last 15 years is that we have these cheerleaders. But one thing that all of you can take out of this room today is find your champion. Those are the people that are going to speak about you and represent you at the right time, at the right table, in the right room. Now, that takes cheerleading to the next level. We all need people to give us that positivity. I get called Dr. Joy at one of the schools from Inside Out, you know, Joy. Anyways, but I get called one of them at a school, but it's really about the champions. So I challenge all of you today is have your cheerleaders, but really, really be intentful and find your champions, because that's where the magic happens, and that's where some of those doors open that you never thought would open before.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we're going to take our one last question. Sri Lanka, we'd love for you to join us. And I think you've got a question for Kavya.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Sri Lanka Mamadala, and I'm from Garnet Valley, Pennsylvania. And it's so amazing to see all of the inspiring things all of you are doing for girls around the world. And one question I have for you, Kavya, is how did you adapt to the COVID-19 pandemic, and how has that changed the way you view your cause?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for the question. So I think this is mentioned really briefly in my bio, but 7 years ago, I started a nonprofit organization called Girls Computing League, which ties together my passion for education and making education accessible with my love of computer science. And prior to the pandemic, a lot of our events were in person, so we would hold different educational events for emerging technology, so teaching robotics, artificial intelligence, different parts of computer science and how it applies into the real world. And obviously in 2020, when everything went virtual, it was a very big change to decide, like, how are we going to make an impact, and how are we going to identify the people who were most impacted by COVID and who were cut off from a lot of other educational pipelines, like after-school programs or enrichment programs that are no longer available because it's very difficult to move that sort of interaction online. And I actually think the most difficult part of this transition during this COVID time was how to preserve the essence of why these events are so beautiful and why events like ISEF are so beautiful. And it's because you make those random connections with people you would have never met before, who you carry through your life into many, many different stages. Like, I ended up like rooming with people that I met at ISEF. I still talk to people, like, now that I live in New York, like so many ISEF people. And so kind of similarly in my nonprofit organization, like, how do we preserve that random interaction that turns into really deep bonds? And so all of this to say, I ended up thinking about, like, how can we solve both the supply issue of, like, how are we getting this education to students, and also this demand issue of, like, how are we identifying the students who are in need of this, like, education the most. And we came up with this program called Girls Computing League Scholars, where we would go to a lot of different universities, like community colleges, HBCUs, minority-serving institutions, and identify students who are interested in technology, either in a computational major or not, and give them a scholarship to actually go back to their communities and be able to teach computer science virtually. And on the flip side, we partnered with a lot of different companies to actually provide technology to those students who may not have a laptop or who may not have internet connection at home to actually be able to connect with these scholars. And so we call this a Scholars in Schools program, solving that demand and supply. And so I think that was like one way that we really tried to adapt to COVID, by like moving things online and focusing on that like individualized interaction. And now, because of COVID, we really expanded from kind of our like what we were doing locally, and now we have like 14 different chapters in the US and 6 different chapters internationally. So like I think our impact was actually accelerated because we were forced to innovate during COVID. And I think that's just a life lesson that I will carry throughout the rest of my career, thinking about how can I innovate either from external pressure or just internally, how can I always like be better and make a better impact. So thank you for your question.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
jumping off of that, I also started a nonprofit in 2015 that pairs minority women with female business leaders and tries to help create innovative and creative ways to implement technology in women-led small businesses. Just like Kavya, I was very nervous when the pandemic hit because my programming had always happened, in person in my home state of Kentucky, year after year, and I didn't know what to do initially. I was really frustrated and saddened because I thought it might mean that the program would have to close. But again, just like Kavya, it became an opportunity to innovate and scale. I realized that I could tap into my network from science fairs, from college, all across the country to recruit more mentors like myself. And I could also bring in more female students in need from all across the country. And so that year, my program doubled in size, not just in terms of the number of students we were able to help, but also in terms of the number of women mentors that we brought together. And yes, of course, there's an element of interpersonal connection or sporadic random conversations that can be lost, but also the breadth and the diversity of people and the diversity of connections that we can reach in a virtual setting is really amazing and is really unique. And so while there's always going to be a trade-off, I think that our whole world is shifting toward being able to operate with really unique advantages in a virtual setting. And I think that is amazing for all of us and for education in general. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have 1 minute left. We're going to do our speed round. So these are like 1 or 2 word answer questions, okay? We're going to go this way. Favorite class in high school?
AP Music Theory.
Okay.
Physics. Biology.
Biotechnology.
Awesome. What are you streaming right now?
BoJack Horseman.
Midnights to get ready for the Eras tour.
Okay.
You don't want me to answer, Nicole. I'm in too many meetings. I don't have...
And two kids.
2 kids. And so I'm streaming competitive swimming with my kids, right? No, I'm just...
Perfect.
Yep.
The last thing he told me on Apple TV.
Nice. Okay.
Oh, that's...
All right, if you could invite 2 people to dinner, who would it be? You can have 2 words for that answer.
Like living, dead, any of that
Anything.
kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll revert back to my former role model, Diane Haverhill and Mac Miller.
Awesome.
Ada Lovelace and Grace Hopper.
Nice.
Yep, I'll go with one. So my father, he used ISEF for over 40 years, and he impacted thousands of students in this room, and he passed away 10 years ago, so from a brain aneurysm. But I would love to have a conversation and have him see my life-size statue today in the hallway.
Yes. Mine would be Leonardo da Vinci and Taylor Swift.
Is anyone recording that? Maybe you could put that out into the world for Taylor Swift. We would love that to happen. That'd be awesome. And then invite all of us and our girls, please.
Yes, yes.
Well, you all are amazing. Megan just mentioned the statues. Just a reminder, if you haven't seen them, these are our amazing If Then ambassadors. We've got a couple of them are actually life-size statues. Please see them, see their statues, take your picture. One day you could be a statue too. I know that's been an incredible experience. We have been inspired by all of you. I know everyone here today. How do you feel about this session? Are you inspired? Well, let's give everyone one final round of applause. Thank you to you all. Good luck this week. Thank you and have a great day.